the system that we are running as a country. The Financial and Economics Division of the Accra High Court ordered the Office of the Special Prosecutor to return all monies seized from the former Sanitation Minister, Cecilia Dapaah. The court ordered that this ruling be complied with within 7 days. The court said it cannot confirm the freezing of her bank accounts and other property. Now, take a look at this. And we'll put on the screen the sequence of events and what really led to the High Court freezing. In fact, this is what happened. The High Court reasons for dismissing the OSC's application. The confirmation of seizure application was filed out of time. That's number one. They said that there's a period of time that the OSP should have done that. I think people will get into that. Two, the OSP exercised the power of seizure wrongly, and it will not be fair and just to confirm the seizure. The third reason that they give is that the OSP did not provide any basis for the seizure and the freezing, since it did not disclose the details of the transactions in the accounts. And that the freezing order was based on public sentiment and without proper investigation. And this is the money that the OSP sought to extend the freezing order on. The over 590,000 US dollars and the almost 2.8 million Ghana cedis that were found at the residence of Cecilia Dapaah, her Agalga residence. These are the bank accounts that had the monies in there that the court is saying the OSP failed to disclose the details of this bank accounts that he sought to freeze. And then also the OSP went to court on this particular, the strength of the section 40 of the Act 959. But eventually the court says, no, you know what? You did not satisfy all the requirements. So we cannot grant you that. Martin Kpebu, the events in court surprise you, especially because of some of what you have described as elementary mistakes or omissions that the OSP made in this case.
Okay. Yes. So let's start with that one. The elementary mistake is the matter. So there are two applications. So you saw the seizure. Seizure is under section 32. Okay, that's where you deal with seizure. So it's referring to the 590,000 and then the 2.7 million that was seized in her house when they went there to search. Then the freezing one refers to the money in the bank. So that money is not with the OSP, but it's in the bank, right? NIB, right?
Yes.
Some of the NIB mostly. Good. So let's deal with the second one. That's where the elementary mistake came from. The seizure one, I think it's more nuanced. I don't exactly agree with the judge. So let's start with where it's easier.
So can we establish your point of disagreement with the judge? Reason why you thought that something else could have been done rather than the judge not agreeing with the OSP to extend the freezing order for the monies that were found in her house, the residence.
Good. So this is what you do. So you see, in law, right now, as we sit here, the tools that we use, there are so many. The sources of law. There is a constitution. There are acts of parliament. The acts of parliament alone, I think that right now they're over 1,000. I'm sure we are getting to 1,100. And even after the last act, I know there is the 1044. Okay, then this etc. So right now there are almost 1,100 acts of parliament. 1, 2, 3, can you imagine over 1,000, right?
Wow.
Then you have the common law, makes so many rules. So what I'm saying is that the sum total of all the rules, when you put them together, what you get is that look, that come to court within 7 days, as you see in the OSP Act when it comes to seizure. In the event that somebody doesn't come within 7 days, there are 1,001 ways of curing it. Remember, we just did in the last topic, I told you that we deal with the case, the common law principle, which still goes very far, that evidence, no matter how obtained, it's admissible. Of course, the exceptions are if you torture somebody, if you beat the person, the duress, undue influence, you promise the person, you lie. You see, confession statement, section 120, those are the exceptions. But the general rule is that evidence, no matter how obtained, is admissible. So when you just want to restrict the OSP to the 7 days, it doesn't show that we are taking cognizance of all the laws. It doesn't, because even the judge who sits there in the court, they will tell you, there is a rule there is a rule that usually judgments have to be given within a certain period, 3 months in the High Court. If you don't do that, a case went to the Supreme Court, ex parte EPP, ex parte expandable polytrain, blah, blah, it's a long word, EPP. Polysiren, you know it, polysiren. Professor Jampo is reading law. You should just finish it up. Good. Justice Apalu sitting in the High Court, a different Apalu, not the Chief Justice, did that case, and it went. The Supreme Court had to hold that, look, if they insist that judges must give judgments within the stipulated time, and so anything that goes outside makes the whole judgment void, it will bring untold hardship. So there was a previous Supreme Court decision called ex parte ABBA, where the Supreme Court had held that if a judge gives judgment outside the period, the judgment is void. It was creating too much problem. So you see that based on the exigencies, the practicalities of the matter, the Supreme Court had to reverse course and say, look, if you give outside, it's not a problem. Maybe if the parties are aggrieved, they can report the judge to the Chief Justice for administrative sanctions. So the point I'm making is that even in the court, it's not every rule you can obey stricto sensu. No. This one, can you imagine? Law enforcement agency, I call OSP that, they go and fine $590,000. That's so far Madame Dapaah cannot explain. And then 2.7 million that she cannot explain. And you are saying you didn't come within 7 days, so return it. And if you do that, like I told you, the rules are so many. I was going to show you this one. I don't need to quote, by the time I quote it will delay because we don't have time. This is CI 47. Every lawyer will tell you, when a case is taken to court, circuit court, high court, that's why we use CI 47. You have to file your defense within 14 days, all right? So after the appearance, you have 9 days, you file appearance, then file your defense within 14 days. The same way, Supreme Court have held from the 1960s that if you don't file the defense within 14 days, the defense you file cannot be thrown out. No, it has to be considered once you filed it. So you see, that's another example. I can give you 1,001 examples where you see the law plain like this. You can read it. They say file your defense within 14 days. Yet if you don't file, nothing, they will take course against you, but it will be accepted. So many. I'm sure now I'm counting them. Lawyers can give you 1,001. So what the judge was supposed to have done is that he shouldn't have held the 7 days against the OSP.
Is this decision subject to the judge's own discretion, or there's some provision in the law that does not necessarily implore on the judge to strictly apply this 7-day rule?
Yes, so you find other laws. Extend and all. So there are other laws that will tell. That's how I've named two. That's how I've told that we look at all the laws together. Then you see that, and also there's a principle that there's one cardinal principle to that the courts use. You don't make orders that cannot be enforced. The courts don't like orders that cannot be enforced at all. Enforceability, because now very soon when we go in, you see that when the OSP has taken your money.
Sorry, for the purpose of concluding on this matter, I think the rightful thing the OSP ought to have done would have been to apply to the court for extension of time to file it, albeit that you were out of time. It doesn't close your access window to the court. And the court has inherent jurisdiction to grant that
extension of time. Thank you for the intervention. In order not to distort your thoughts.
So you see how lawyers will be disagreeing, so we just leave it and go, right? So when they take, you see, when they take it, there is the form 4B, where the OSP currency seizure notice, right? When the OSP takes your currency and you can't explain, look, let me read it. You forfeit. So let's say it says to so and so. Take notice that the undermentioned amount of currency is liable to forfeiture, and you should, within 1 calendar month from the date of this notice, give notice in writing to the office. In default of such notice, the currency shall be deemed to have been lawfully forfeited to the state. If you give notice of claim or intended claim within the time stipulated above, legal proceedings for the forfeiture of the currency will commence.
This is the OSP Act?
Yes. Yes. Okay? Right. So there are so many tools available to the OSP that they can use, and so Madam Dapaah will not get this money. So the judge should have been cognizant of that. Courts don't like making orders that cannot be enforced. Then you see that, like we say in Chi, now, when the court need form, the court will now be used, you lose the dignity. So the courts guard that dignity jealously. So do you know that theoretically, OSP can call Madam Dapaah, we don't like it, but it happens. I say, Madam, here is your money, take. Simple. Madam Dapaah will take the money, start jubilating. She walks out of the door. When she gets to the main door, a gate, then they will stop her. Madam, we've rearrested you. I mean, come on. So Justice Chum shouldn't have. He should have watched all those things. Because then you see that you'll be pitching Cecilia Dapaah against the courts. No.
Okay.
There's 1,001. As for timelines, look, there's a lot of work within the legal field. So many. Look, I went to court. The 48-hour rule that courts must sit on Saturday, Sunday to take bail applications. Since Chief Justice Ekufu, and God bless her, Chief Justice Ekufu is one of the standing, citizens. And Yasantua, thank you. Yasantua, I know she shook Ekufu, very well. Accountability and everything. So the point is that Yasantua, when she was going, her last case was Pebu number 4, versus Attorney General number 4. That 48 hours is 48 hours. Mr. Okansi, as we talk now, even last week, I had clients who were kept in beyond 48 hours. Yet when we went to court, the judge didn't say, police, just because you've kept them beyond 48 hours, I'm not listening to the case. Accused person, walk, just go away. No. The judge looked at it, and the remedy is, if the police don't release the person within 48 hours or bring the person to court, you can sue for damages. So this one, you look at it, the law didn't state that if OSP doesn't come within 7 days, the penalty is that don't confirm. If the lawmaker wanted to say so, they would have said so. So if they don't, you look at the whole legal system, including you yourself, the work you do, the way the court have seen that you cannot do all your work within certain timeline. So exceptions have been made for judges, lawyers, and then you let this one pass. Because right now, as you said, the way the public is baying for the blood of Mr. Cecilia Dapaah and Madam Dapaah now, you think Mr. Cecilia Dapaah will release the money? No. It's not going to release because there will be an uproar. We will go out into the streets there. No, because we expect that he should do that old trick where he will give to Madam Dapaah. He said, Jabin says, Madam Dapaah, here is your money. Madam Dapaah says, oh, thank you, hallelujah. Hey, God has done it. She gets to the main gate, then they re-seize it, and the thing starts again. So when you do that, the court loses dignity. But the second one, that's a freezing order.
That is the bank account.
Yes, as for that one, the judge was spot on.
You agree with the judge?
Oh, I agree with the judge, 150%. Look, and on a lawyer's platform, before this case was heard in court, I had said, lawyers were debating it. And I said, listen, I don't see how the judge will grant a freezing order when you don't tell the judge what is in the account. This is too elementary. We have a lawyer's platform, learned friends. I put it there. I said, a judge will not grant you. Why? What is in it? I can imagine, yes, Mr. Cecilia Dapaah is doing investigations. From the way it is, we are not kids. We all understand a bit. So we are talking about the accounts, one of which is said to have total volume of transactions, $5 million. And then the other one has $48 million. Not bank balance, total volume of transactions from what we hear. That's monies that were paid in over a period, right? So I can imagine that certain people paid in monies. So if you just throw out the account into the public, maybe it can scuttle the investigation. Yeah. Fair enough. So what you do is that then you can apply to the court that you want to do it in camera. So you give the judge a loan and the parties, they alone. If you say we shouldn't see, why not? If you say the public we shouldn't see, why not? Though we had heard it, but you don't want the statement out because so many names may be involved. So all those people will start panicking. People will be calling their chiefs to go to OSP and beg and the rest. Yes, that's what's going to happen naturally. That's what's going to happen. When you see so many names, chiefs will be, and OSP himself, Mr. Ejabe himself had said the chiefs are his main headache. When his chief calls him, that one he cannot refuse. Indeed. Mr. Ejabe said it, right, in one of the... And so what those people will simply have to do is to go and look for the Kwewu Manhine and tell Kwewu Manhine that, hey, your royal is going to do this X, Y, Z to us. Call him. He himself has said when Kwewu Manhine calls him, that one, Charlie, he has to go because Yes, he said it's an interview. Mr. Jabin said it.
That's
so
true.
if I were advising somebody who is so what, it's likely I say, oh, go and look for Kouman Hini. Mr. Jabin says when Kouman Hini calls him, that one he has to go. He has no option, right? So I can imagine that throwing out the statement can scatter his investigation. So there are ways. You remember the National Service case? The National Service case. They did the sittings in camera. When national security officers wanted to testify, they went and did it in camera. You can use the inherent jurisdiction of the court, though it's debatable and the rest, but by and large, it can be done. And so this tells you that we ourselves, these civil procedure rules and the criminal procedure rules, we have to begin to look at the OSP, the amendment of the law. Amendment of the law so that they can do a lot more
The OSP law?
Yes.
The
so
Act
that
959?
Yes, 59. Oh, there are so many problems with it. So that you can do a lot more of these ex-party things. Because if you release, so that maybe then the judge will say, okay, in that case, you know what, take the statement, block out the names of those people who paid in the monies, right? And the people to whom the monies were, block out all those and then annex it. So we'll just see the figure. Maybe 3rd September 2022, 1 million was paid in. You don't see the name of the person, but you see 1 million. Another date, so all of them. So we can see the total, but we'll not see names. Yeah, that's what is done under disclosure, criminal law. So we need to amend the OSP law to be able to make provision for a lot of this, right?
I see.
But the main thing is that as for the bank balances of what, 5 million, and the other one, 48 million Ghana. That is the crown jewel even of the evidence. The fact that that one didn't go, Justice Chu is right.
So this omission of the OSP, which you describe as elementary, and that the OSP should have known this, what does this tell you, especially because of the heightened public interest in this particular case, and that some members of general public have strong opinion that this is just something that is being done that is not going to end up really anywhere, this case, and that the OSP is just acting and will bow to pressure in time to come. Then this elementary mistake is made, just as you have described it. What does this tell you?
Yeah, so that's why I followed social media and I saw people were crying that the thing is staged. It's staged. For the first time, I had to buy into it. Yeah, though I still support Mr. Ejebe 130%. I had to buy into this thing being staged because it's so elementary. You are saying the judge should freeze an account. You are not telling him what is inside. How? Is the judge a robot? Is the judge a robot? Then you just, what OSP is saying is that, under the law, it says if he's investigating. But you forget that you have to convince the judge how you are investigating. So look at the law. The respondent, 40, issuing of freezing order. This is what OSP's argument was. That 40, so Act 959. It says 41, where an application is made for a freezing order, the court shall issue the order if it is satisfied that A, the respondent is being investigated for corruption or a corruption-related offense. It's being investigated. Yeah, so you don't just put in an affidavit, I'm investigating Madame Dapaah for corruption or corruption-related offense. Full stop. So because of that, and that her answers are not checking out. The statement Madame Dapaah gave, give it. Give it. I understand that statement is telling, It even begins to give Madame Dapaah away. Annex it. That's why I said, if you don't want those things to come out, so then after you file, then file for in-camera hearing. File for in-camera hearing. If it's thrown out, then you have the right to go to the Supreme Court under Article 135.
Right.
Under Article 135. You see, so use those tools. But to just put in affidavit, you are investigating Madame Dapaah for this, it's not sufficient. So that place, as for the second one, the freezing order under Section 40 and then 41, the judge is right for not making that order. So, but thankfully, Mr. Cecilia Dapaah can put his house together and go back. He should go back.
Okay.
Yes.
So he should go back.
Yes, because if you are going on appeal, initially I thought an appeal would have been good. But then if you are going on appeal, you are restricted to only what you filed. And if what you filed, you didn't tell the judge even about the evidence, what you saw in the account, how is the Court of Appeal going to help you? And you cannot put in, yes, he can start all over. just reapply for the freezing. Yeah, repeat application. Then you annex it. It's allowed in the law. Because if you go on appeal...
And it's difficult to provide fresh evidence.
Exactly, on appeal. No, the simple question they will ask is that, the evidence you didn't attach, was it in existence at the time you went to the High Court? Yes.
Upon due diligence.
And they will just throw it out.
Just throw it. So an appeal is not good.
Professor Jampo, so the OSP says it's assuring the public that it will take all necessary legal steps to ensure that the seized amounts and the balances in Cecilia Dapaah's bank accounts and investments are neither concealed, lost, or otherwise dissipated.
You see, let me just say this. People didn't, there are so many people who didn't like it when I took issues with Cecilia Dapaah and his posturing, and I had so many people calling us. He was my classmate. I was in the Kwafo S4. I think he was in assistant. We did either political science or philosophy together. But there were certain things that I found quite difficult to.
I'm happy that you didn't get to S13.
You are still going to worry me.
This is an careful match. Yes, careful.
Yes, James was also in a Kwafo. Yes, the Hall of Excellence.
It explains. Let's Prof, move on.
All right, so, but listen to what the court is saying. We can't confirm freezing of Cecilia Dapaah's bank account. OSP couldn't find reasonable grounds. Action was born out of speculation, reaction to public sentiments. OSP undertook poor investigations. That's what the court is telling us. You see, it ties in with my earlier view that it appears Cecilia Dapaah is rushing too much. And growing up, we had an expression, so Russia ubiti. We all do not like, we are not happy with those huge sums of money hidden under the bed of a minister in an era of economic miserization. We don't like it. Now, it appears that your wealth is, somebody was sarcastically or jokingly telling me, he saw me and said, how much do you have in your house? And I said, why? He said, now your wealth is determined by how much you have at home. Because how much you have at home gives an indication of what you have in the bank, in Ghana and banks outside Ghana. So we are, what question are you asking me? What's the coefficient?
Yes, for example.
See, he's still worrying me. I said, you are not prepared for today's program.
Yes.
So in trying to deal with this challenge, in my view, I think we need a certain maturity, a certain tact, a certain competence, a certain open door policy that listens to other views and suggestions, and a toned down effort or approach that does not present you as Russian. And then also not assuming or touting certain non-existent accolades of being a conscience of the nation. You don't do that. The most important thing is to get the work done. And so Martin, I think, was being charitable by saying that he's trying to just buy into the argument that buying into the argument that it was staged or something. But I think that, you see, it is a reflection of he not listening and also rushing, because, like you said, the mistakes that he made. Now you are saying you disagree with the courts, but I'm asking myself, was he not at the courts when the courts these processes were going on? It means you couldn't advance any superior argument, and that's how come the court had to come to this particular conclusion. And then you are out there in the court of public opinion trying to defend yourself by saying we don't agree, we disagree, and all that. Russia, take your time.
Okay.
We don't like what is happening. We don't like the fact that in the midst of economic miserization, people can conceal those huge sums of money in their bedroom. And we want you to fight it. We like your energy, but temper the energy with some tact and some maturity and listen. Don't rush. Otherwise, then you'll be a disappointment to Ghana.
Great. Mr. Piakubi, so even before I come to you, you recall that Martin Alamisi Burns Kaiser Amido, the former special prosecutor, the first special prosecutor of the Republic of Ghana, wrote an epistle on Cecilia Dapaah. One of the things he said, and I quote, that the OSP was not established as a corporate fisheries entity to go into the oceans, rivers, and other water bodies of crime,
he was damn right,
casting its net widely to scoop in every fish the net can catch, and then decide which type of fish meets its fancy to be retained as game or food for sacrifice to the gods of persecution, and which to release back into the oceans. And says deficiencies in investigatory and prosecutorial experience of Cecilia Dapaah is what has haunted him into override mode. And let me, because you're a lawyer, let me find out, I'll come to you on this matter, because it says there is no crime under Act 959 known as alleged or suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses, unquote. There is no crime under Act 595 on this, in that the mandate of the OSP is to investigate and prosecute specific cases of alleged or suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses. Emphasis supplied that in Act 959, no crime such as alleged or suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses is captured in there. Is this consistent with the details of the law?
Right. Alfred, I'm sure you are in my mind when you are putting the question together. The establishment of the office by the Act is specific, and it talks about investigation in special cases of alleged corruption or suspected corruption or corruption-related offenses. The position doesn't present an omnibus mandate to, that is what Martin Amido is saying, that you hear of anything at all and you jump on the boat, you want to investigate. No, you are limited by the statute that appointed you, and it's saying that you only investigate corruption or perceived corruption or corruption-related offenses. So what one would say in the event of the application, number one, is there any corruption or corruption-related offense being tried? That is where you see. Is there any process of investigating corruption or corruption-related charges? And for now, let me put it on record that I am not sure there was any complaint whatsoever. So it is based on the perception of the OSP that there is some corruption. That is where you have to indicate to the court where your suspicion lies. You cannot just go to court, otherwise you bring all of us to court and say that I suspect this person as engaging in corruption or corruption.
That you are driving.
Say again.
Your view that you are driving. You use as a basis.
Yes.
We will not investigate yours. Okay, fine. So you should demonstrate to the court the grounds upon which you come before the court. And the judge is not with you, so you don't pursue him to be knowledgeable in the areas that you think brought you to court. Again, the state is an entity that has enormous resources and power to be able to undertake every assignment in prosecution. So you go to court unprepared like that, it is very indefensible that a state institution will go to court without the necessary preparation. And that is grievous. Indeed, I have also learned from practice that you need to be diligent at all times, not at some times. Sometimes you will appoint your junior to handle a case, and the junior is handling the case in your name. And he files an application before the court, and because you did not supervise properly, the application is flawed. I will not say probably it is Mr. Cecilia Dapaah as a person, but it's office. And therefore, anybody who works in that office works in his name. And therefore, he should learn something from this, that whatever goes out in your name, you must be sure that it is that which you represent. Otherwise, because as Martin put it, very elementary like that, I am not sure it may have come under the hand of the
He
OSP.
signed the motion.
Yes,
He signed it.
normally when your juniors prepare it, you will sign. But you sign without reading. I had an experience a little while ago when I filed a suit in Kumasi. I got my junior to prepare it. He brought to me to sign. The matter is in Kumasi. But for all I know, when I go to Kumasi court, the address was Accra. You see, and I had to withdraw to come back. So it is possible some of these things can happen. But for you to go to court unprepared is very dangerous, particularly coming from a state apparatus like OSP's office. We refer to the law. You need 7 days to come before the court. If it has expired and the court has inherent jurisdiction, and it is part of our practice procedure, that you come to the court. I was supposed to have done A, B, C, D at this time. I wasn't able for this reason or that reason. And therefore, give me extension of time to come back to you on the same application. It is done all the time. I don't know why you will want to circumvent that. But when you make mistakes, you provide ammunition to your opponent to hit you with the mistakes that you make. So this one, and as Martin was saying, it is not foreclosed. Indeed, this application for extension of time can still come.
Okay, on this bit on the extension of time, respectfully, the OSP in the paragraph 3 of his statement tried to explain and in why he disagrees with the court's conclusion on the time issue. He says the OSP believes that the court's computation of the time limitation is, with respect, erroneous. The OSP searched 3 private residences associated with Cecilia Dapaah over the course of 2 weeks. The searches and discovery were ongoing during that period. There is little doubt that the OSP filed its application within the statutory window once the search and discovery window is considered.
Right. And
so they said the search was ongoing, and that's his explanation for that time issue.
No, the provision does not relate to the end of the search. It says at the seizure, the point of seizure, the time that you seize the property, that's where time starts to run. And section 32(2), you shall apply to the court on notice
Within 7 days.
Within 7 days of the seizure. So it is not, well, you could have seized part and you will be investigating others. But that does not mean that the right to go to court will not have matured. So the moment you seize, you start counting for 7 days. And you have to go to court within the 7 days. And what I'm saying is that it is not foreclosed. He can still come back and apply for extension of time and come back on this. And the issue of and this one is a confirmation of the seizure. You understand? This one, you are going to seek the court's order to confirm that you have seized the property, and it's in consonance with the law that the property is seized.
Okay.
On the others, as Martin was saying, when you are before the court, make sure you provide every evidence necessary for the court to be informed and satisfied to be able to grant you your application. You cannot bring part of the evidence and seek the court to investigate other parts and add to your submission. The affidavit must be conclusive of everything that will aid the court in coming to a conclusive decision.
Okay.
So you go to court and say, freeze account, freeze what account, and for what amount of money. And in any case, is it the case that everything in that account is also subject to investigation?
That is,
if it is not,
tainted property.
then you have to make sure that you highlight those that are subject to your investigation and call and apply for the seizure or confirmation of the seizure of same. But you come to court and say that freeze the total account.
But I want to find out, do you think he didn't know this? Or
that's what I'm saying.
And
sometimes it's about supervision. I would not fault OSP for not knowing. It's a big office.
But in the end, the buck still stops with him.
But the buck still stops with you.
And
therefore he must be diligent in his approaches, because it's under his signature. So he has to supervise. But
Thank you.
once in a while, you know, you may go astray.
The
and
benefit
think
is that
whatever is before you is good and sign. But he's learning on the job. You should know that people are also going to be very critical of his submissions and his applications.
Right.
And indeed, it is where the opponent will find the bullets to hit him back. And in all cases, you have in contemplation that somebody is also supervising your job, even as you are not supervising your own.
Thank you. Mr. James Agalga, I mean, so, well, you're a lawyer as well. So, I mean, on the basis of this particular omission, which there's some consensus on this table that it is basic and elementary that the special prosecutor should have known and done this if indeed there was that commitment to execute this particular case in the manner in which the public was expecting, and that these elementary omissions actually feeds into that suspicion that this is just much ado about nothing, and that this case is not going to end it anyway.
So, Alfred, the issue here is that the courts have so far relied on procedural matters provided for under the Office of Special Prosecutor Act, right, in declining to grant a confirmation order on the frozen accounts. Essentially, that is what is an issue here. Does that foreclose other options open to the special prosecutor?
The same option.
I think it has been established here that there is no foreclosure. I am interested in the next steps. I am very interested in the next steps. The special prosecutor has put out some press release, has attempted to explain, he's disagreed with the court, etc. But for me, what is fundamental is that we cannot allow for an individual in whose house a discovery, 500 and, is it how much? $90,000 was discovered, cash.
That's about 12 million Ghana.
2.7 million Ghana cedis discovered. At the same time, the same person has a complaint before the police, which indicates that a colossal sum of $1 million was stolen from her home by her aides. An additional amount of 300 million euros, 300,000 euros, was stolen in addition to the $1 million. These issues are of crucial importance.
Plus other amount of cities.
Exactly.
Without running into...
These issues cannot be swept under the carpet. We all know Honorable Cecilia Dapaah was a Minister of State. And from every indication, it doesn't appear as though she is somebody engaged in some other business ventures and so on and so forth as part of the investigation. I mean, listening to Martin, I am told that from statements she has so far given out, it doesn't appear that she's engaged in some other businesses. And so clearly there is a case to answer here. We don't want all these legal niceties, procedure to be used to water down on the substance. So that is why I am interested. I'm a lawyer. I know when you miss certain steps, especially when the matter is criminal, the rights of whoever is suspected or is accused, must be taken very seriously. But at the same time, the country has resolved that we must all fight corruption. And that is why the Office of Special Prosecutor was set up in the first place. As for me, in the course of the debate, if my brother here, Andy, would recall, I had taken a stance that this particular law that we enacted was unnecessary in the first place. I mean, it was going to be yet another layer of bureaucracy.
And again, it is subject to the Attorney General.
To the Attorney General. So ab initio, it was even unnecessary to establish an office like that. But you see, at that point in time, the president's policy was that, look, that office would be the panacea to the fight against corruption. We set up the office eventually. We all know the challenges the office has been through. There's been a lot of inertia on the part of government to fund the office to take off on a good note. So initially, issues to do with lack of office space, even the ability to recruit staff, etc. All these questions came up. And finance, you know. So in a way, there was this belief that the government itself did not even want the office to function effectively. Be that as it may, Mr. Jabeng is in office. The former special prosecutor, my own uncle, Mr. Martin Amidu, we left office on a certain note. You know, when he tried to do his work, we know there were a lot of impediments, and eventually he had to resign out of frustration. We now expect that the current special prosecutor will live up to expectation. The public wants to know the source of those funds. How did Madam Cecilia Dapaah come by the colossal amounts of money that were stolen, the amount of money that was discovered, and even the transactions that took place, the transactions in her accounts.
But you agree that the processes established by the OSP to also to know the source of the funds are also crucial, is it not?
Absolutely. So I have indicated in some other fora that, look, the Office of Special Prosecutor must work in tandem with the Financial Intelligence Center. There was a time I was even asking questions that, look, when certain transactions happen in bank accounts, there are procedures for the work or the mandate of the FIC to be triggered automatically. And how all these things didn't happen, it took somebody to lodge, the person who is now a suspect, Madam Cecilia Dapaah, to lodge a complaint before the special prosecutor now set in, and before the disclosures that the certain bank accounts, you know, had gone through some suspicious transactions, leaves much to be desired, you know. So the failure to even make the disclosure, I mean, is something we need to question. I mean, before the law courts.
Right.
If you go peruse the act, I don't think there is any provision which warrants, you know, those non-disclosures. What is it? What is it that the accounts that they sought to freeze, why is it that whatever is contained in there was not even made public? What's the incentive?
Which is supposed to be elementary.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the incentive?
The perceived independence of the office is compromised by the same act. You see, the preamble to the act says that on the authority of Attorney General. And Section 4A, Section 4.1 says that without the control of any person or authority. What does that mean?
So you see, Alfred, to wrap up, as for me, the initial steps on the OSP took, clearly the court did not, he did not find favor with the court. Let him proceed with the speed of light to undertake the next steps, because the public is curious.
Right.
We want to know, in the midst of so much economic hardship and difficulty, if an individual can have such colossal amounts of money hidden under her bed. Clearly, there are questions to answer, and the special prosecutor, I mean, it's at the center. We expect, you know, the special prosecutor to deliver on his mandate.
Very important point there. Honorable James Agalga, thank you. A minute on this, about what the specific case that Martin Amidu makes, that there is no specific crime as corruption and corruption-related activities in Act 959. You've read that statement from Martin Amidu?
Yes. Okay, so I get the point that he's making. So he's saying that he should be specific. The offenses that have been listed under Section 79 of the OSP Act. So you see the corruption, extortion, bribery, election offenses, you see, procurement
and
offenses, right? So he's saying that pick specifically, Madam Dapaah, you are being investigated for bribery and corruption. That's what Mr. Amidu is saying, right? So he wants a specific one. Is it bribery alone? Is it corruption alone? Is it an election one? Is it public procurement, there's an offense, okay? And so on and so forth. Yes, those ones, it can be, that argument fair. But, you know, I can also understand where Mr. Jabin is coming from, that he's conducting investigations. But when you arrest, that one you have to be specific. When you arrest the person, you have to. And I will be surprised. So have we seen any statement that says that Mr. Jabin wasn't specific when Madam Dapaah's statement was being taken?
There hasn't been.
So
there was one that indicated that she had not been charged. That when there was that detail that herself and her husband.
If he had indicated
yes.
That the judge would have made pronouncement on it.
No, he said it in the affidavit. He says that he's investigating, so he came under Section 40.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying, Mr. Amidu's thing. Maybe I've not gotten the context because the law says if you go to court,
I'm sure that this will be a subject.
Show that you are investigating. That's what you have to show.
Yes.
So the main or the person is being charged.
Right.
The main thing is the accounts he didn't show. That one, the judge is right.
When you say that's elementary,
elementary. At least you can block out the names and then apply to the judge that I want to show you the full one in camera. If the judge is not willing to do that, Article 135 says, then go to the Supreme Court. Article 135 of our Constitution says that if you think either national security or in the public interest that you shouldn't put out everything, it's the Supreme Court that will determine. And there are a few cases on that.
Right on. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And the jury certainly is out there on this matter. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. There's Gabon, the latest country to experience a coup. And this is the 9th coup in the last 3 years, 6 out of the 9 in the West African sub-region. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. Stay with us.
Rasta. What does Rasta really mean to the people? In today's episode of Rasta Vibration, this is what we're looking at. Rasta, what does it mean to you?
To me, Rasta means real.
Rasta to me means artistic. Rasta to me means sport. Rasta to me means trailblazing.
That's what people like you and I do every day.
What?
But where you there?
You do. Listen, Rasta, I have a bone to pick with you. Some of the things that you say on air, though, are morally, ethically, and politically.
Relax. Kids are watching.
Sit down, my youth.
Respect. Rasta means the motherland, Africa.
Real artistic, sporty, trailblazing African choco malt drink.
This advert is FDA approved.
Artificial intelligence, creativity and sustainability. Join this year's Africa Rising 6, brought to you by the International Advertising Association IAA at the Kempinski Hotel, Gold Coast City, as we uncover the power of building future-ready brands on 5th and 6th September. Speakers Sasan Saidi, World Chairman and President, International Advertising Association, Andrew Techiapia, Co-Founder and MD, ZPay, Lethepu Machaba, Independent Business Leader, former Vice President of Home Care, Unilever, Ivan Moroki, CEO, Kanta South Africa, Guy Parker, Chief Executive, Advertising Standards Authority, United Kingdom, Steve Papaiko, CEO, Extreme Ideas, Sami Awuku, Director General, National Lottery Authority, and many more. This conference is sponsored by Margins Group, ZPay, Google, MTN, GOIL, and NLA. Media partners, CNN, Media General, Graphic Communication Group. Register now at www.africarising.iaaglobal.org for more information or contact Nanajwa on 0242 528 431 or the AAG Secretariat 0244 440477.
Welcome back to Key Point here on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7 on TV3 and on Facebook. Well, this week, in fact, just about some 4 days ago, we woke up to the news of another coup on the continent, this time in Gabon. And in the early hours of that day, Wednesday, the deposed president, Ali Bongo, recorded this video asking for help. Take a look.
Bongo Ondimba, president of Gabon, and I'm to send a message to all the friends that we have all over the world to tell them to make noise, for the people here have arrested me and my family. My son is somewhere, my wife is in another place, and I'm at the residence. Right now, I'm in the residence and nothing happening. Nothing is happening. I don't know what's going on. So I'm calling you to make noise, really. I'm thanking you. Thank you.
Well, before this video, after that, the coup, there was widespread jubilation on the streets of the capital of Gabon. And we'll be showing that video those videos as we go on. And the reason for this coup is there was an election on the 28th. And as has been the case in previous elections in Gabon, when the election is about rounding up, counting is about beginning, the lights, there's a blackout, internet goes down. When internet is restored, all sorts of things have happened. And then the ruling party is leading. And they realize that the people realize this cannot continue, especially taking into consideration even the health of the president in question, for that matter. These are the coup leader, who is the cousin to Ali Bongo. This man who has been carried, who is the cousin to Ali Bongo, is being hailed by the people for doing what is in their interest at this moment. This is the 9th coup in the last 3 years on the continent. 6 out of the 9 occurred in the sub-region, the West African sub-region, in the last 3 years. Honorable James Agalga, let me start off with you on this, especially because of the numbers we're seeing and the reasons that's led to this coup. Last time we were talking about Niger. Now look at what's happening in Gabon.
Yeah, Alfred. Well, I think when we had the discussion on the Niger coup and the threat by ECOWAS to intervene in that country, there was general consensus. I mean, I recall when we sat around this table, you know, and made contributions, that it was a reckless move on the part of ECOWAS. And again,
very reckless.
Again, we had indicated very clearly that the reasons for the rampant coups in Africa were as a result of bad governance. Now, when we had these discussions, little did we know that it was going to be the turn of Gabon. Even though the predictions had been made, and there were no pointers to the fact that Gabon was going to become the next destination for military intervention. But let's consider the circumstances of Gabon. A very rich oil producing nation. They started producing oil in the 70s.
Yes.
The population is not very large, but the oil reserves, it's one of the leading producers of oil in Africa. Gabon should be a very rich nation.
Okay.
But if you look at the statistics, okay, only a few people in Gabon have amassed wealth in a manner that is hard to explain. The president's relations can afford to go to France, buy all the Bugattis, the luxurious residences, right? And live in opulence, filthy opulence, that not even the French president can afford, Emmanuel Macron. But when you go back home to Gabon, you find that the majority of the population live below the poverty line. They cannot find decent meals to eat. They don't have decent housing. They lack potable drinking water.
Right.
The no-bed syndrome in the hospitals is something they have to contend with. When you have all these indicators, you have an ailing president whose father had ruled the country for over 50 years.
Yes, from 1967 to 2009.
Now, when Ali Bongo himself, elections were rigged, there was widespread violence. He's ailing, he doesn't want to hand over. What do you expect the military to do? We don't support coups, but would you say this coup was justified? So, like we agreed the last time, the panacea to all these problems is good governance. Let's stop the thievery and the corruption. You don't need to wire monies to Europe for anything. Develop your own country and live in there.
Let me bring in Mr. David Otto. He's a director for the Geneva Center for Africa Security and Strategic Studies. He's joining us from Abuja in Nigeria. Thank you so much, Mr. David Otto, for your time on Key Point. From your own diagnosis and the work that you've been doing at the Geneva Center, what could be the underlying factors for the upsurge in these coups we've seen, the latest in Gabon, 9 of them in the last 3 years?
The analysis that one has been able to observe is that each coup d'etat has its own DNA, but there are commonalities with what we've seen in the past 3 years that 8 military coups have occurred in the continent. I think one of it has been the collapse of democratic institutions, whereby leaders who pretend to run in institutions that are democratic would abuse the constitution. For example, they would change the constitution to allow them to run for additional terms. Some of them would change the constitution to ensure that they can have some hold on the arms of government that constitute the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. Corruption has also been a heightened factor. But if you look at, for example, in the Sahel, there has been talks about democratic systems not being able to deal with the economy, issues of corruption, issues of insecurity. But also in the case of Gabon, which we're currently witnessing, there is an issue of, some kind of authoritarian, but also governments that have stayed in power through some kind of a dynasty. The president of Gabon, whose father had been there since 1967, himself since 2009, has seen one family ruling for about 57 years. And, this is something that it's not acceptable within democratic institutions. Another factor that we've seen is that the actors themselves who are taking over power from democratic institutions are the military. In real democracy, you do not see the military playing a crucial role when it comes to politics. The military's role is to protect territorial integrity of nation states. But these governments are using the military for regime protection, not national security protection. And what happens is that their vulnerabilities are being exposed, and the military is taking advantage of the lack of insecurity, economy, and corruption to justify military coups. So these are some of the key factors that we've seen within the continent. But I think the most important one has been the issue of colonialism and the kind of remnants.
A very, very important point there. And Mr. David Otto, thank you so much and for this very important input, albeit short. But appreciate your time. The director for Geneva Center for Africa Security and Strategic Studies, joining us from Abuja. Professor Ransford Jampo, so we've seen the events that led to this.